Hey amazing lady, welcome to this video. This is Angus from Boss Fitness coming at you with the second key to a slim and sexy body. I really hoped you enjoyed our last video where we focus on all things training and how to implement weight training to take your physique to the next level. What we're going to be focusing on today is the second key, which is nutrition. And in terms of the overall bigger picture and perspective of what will generate the best results for you, your nutrition is actually specific towards 80% of your overall results. So that means that what you're eating, how you're eating, and things like that, these all come massively into the bigger picture of how you move your body forwards towards a tight and toned body. So I'm guessing that at the moment you're probably someone who is eating clean. You're doing your absolute best to try and keep all your food that you're eating healthy. You're probably cutting out processed foods. You're limiting how often you get takeaway. You're cutting out alcohol. You're cutting out sugar maybe as well. But either way, there's a lot of restrictions and things that you've cut out in favor of trying to achieve your dream body. And I'm likely just guessing here that you've probably been going at your journey for a good few months now, yeah, possibly even a bit longer. Maybe at the start when you started out, when you were cutting out foods and you were just going hardcore clean and everything was going fine, and I'm sure the scale actually reflected your progress as well. You maybe dropped a whole bunch of kgs, but then fast forward to right here, right now, my guess is that your progress has come to a standstill, you've plateaued, and you are trying to figure out what to do to move forward. So what I want to do here is just explore first and foremost why this happens. So when it comes to clean eating, remember that our focus with anyone that's eating clean is a big focus on what you're eating. So an average day might be, for example, what I see as a typical clean eater, might be a smoothie in the morning or an omelette with some various vegetables and stuff like that. Maybe a green tea or a short black coffee. And you've got water throughout the day, of course, yes, morning tea, possibly some fruit or maybe some muesli or a protein bar or a protein shake. Lunch would be some sort of meat and salad or maybe even a wrap. Or even sort of those of you who are more following towards paleo, maybe you're smashing a good couple of pieces of salmon with a nice salad. Afternoon tea, similar sort of example, you're smashing out some fruit or a protein shake or some nuts. And then in the evening towards dinner time, this is when you're having like some steak, lots of sweet potato, or just some salad and things like that. So when we look at something like that, we can see here there's a lot that's not getting included and there's a lot that you're cutting out. And I'm sure that most of you, like me, have got a sweet tooth. Yeah, so you like sweet things, and when you cut them out, what happens is that when life throws you a bit of a curveball, or that you're feeling pretty stressed, or that maybe work was just a bit of a downer, well then what you do is when it comes to the evening specifically, you want those foods, don't you? You want those sweet things, and you think about it, and then what we often see happening is that we have this bit of emotional eating splurge. We go to town, or maybe some chocolate. We say, oh, maybe I'll just have one square, and then it turns into the whole block. Or if it's Friday, that turns into an all-out weekend of just eating whatever we want. So there's a lot of fails that I see in terms of clean eating into why it doesn't actually produce people long-term results. Sure, it's great in the beginning for someone who actually is starting out and maybe has a background of processed foods and being a bit of a couch potato maybe. So if that person goes towards exercising and getting in some movement and actually focus on eating clean, well then sure, you're going to get some results. But in terms of the long term, to be able to take things to the next level rather than being stuck in this restrictive nightmare, I want to share with you ladies clearly how we can move things forward here and actually establish some greater results to just reboot your metabolism and get things rocking again. So one of the things in terms of clean eating is that we're focusing on what we're eating, but there's no real focus on quantitative sort of actual tracking. So we may be vaguely aware of how much we're eating, but there isn't actually any sort of anything set in place. So to fill you guys in, when it comes to your body, it is something which is active 24/7. It's a 24/7 functioning machine. So it requires a certain amount of fuel, so food or sustenance or energy, to do its job properly. And especially if you're someone who wants to lose body fat, well then you want to make sure that you are putting a bit of a more emphasis on exactly how much is going in. So to give you guys a bit of an insight in terms of what's going on here, when it comes to your body actually functioning, as I said before, it requires a certain amount of fuel. If you're getting too much fuel on a day-to-day basis, regardless of how healthy you're eating or whatever, your body is still going to gain fat and you're going to get heavier. If you're getting not enough fuel and you're pretty much putting your body into starvation mode through eating say 1200 calories or less or something along those actual lines, well then you're going to be dropping muscle and you're going to be holding onto fat and building what we call a skinny fat body, which is definitely not something which you ladies want. So to get it spot on in the middle and to make sure that you're holding onto muscle mass and then losing the fat that's surrounding it, we really just want to make sure that we're actually nailing the specific amount of fuel that our body requires. So remember that your body is consistently counting. It doesn't recognize how healthy you're eating to an extent. It doesn't really recognize where you're getting your protein from and things like that. All it recognizes is just, okay, how much am I getting? If I'm getting not enough, weight loss, we drop muscle. Too much, weight gain, right in the middle, sweet spot. Okay, so this is something which was massive for me when I learnt, because I'm someone who used to be a heavy advocate for paleo and clean eating and low carb and things like that, based on the fact that I use it to help people get results. So if you can imagine, through the years that I've been going along through my own transformation and just investing heavily into myself to become an expert coach, I found that this sort of research and protocols enables people to really just take things to the next level. I went from being stuck at about 120 after starting at about 130 or 140, and then right to now where I sit at a comfortable 80, and I actually compete in natural bodybuilding competitions. But I want you ladies to know that nothing that I've done across this time has been restrictive. I've been able to do it in the right way, where I was able to be incredibly consistent, not have any splurges or binges, and it enabled me to lose my fat without having any sort of loose skin, any need for surgery or anything like that, and to come out the end with abs, obliques, all the good stuff. And in my most recent competition, took out second place. And I want to let you know that, as I said before, with me having a sweet tooth, I've actually eaten ice cream almost all the way along. So in terms of what we want to call this approach, I guess as a whole, is flexible nutrition, also known as if it fits your macros. So by that, we're focusing on a certain amount of energy which we require day to day, and then we're choosing the foods that we want to be able to hit it. So technology has made this super easy these days, guys. You can use a few certain apps like Calorie King or MYFITNESSPAL or things like that, just to be able to track and become more aware of how much food you're eating, and then work it into your overall targets. So to give you a bit of a rough idea in terms of maybe a good starting point for yourself, what I do is work out how much you weigh in pounds, and then once you've got that figure, so say for instance it's 160 pounds, to work out your overall caloric intake that you actually require, you would times it by 12 if you're someone who does maybe a sedentary job and then resistance trains 3 to 4 times a week. If you are working out more than that, we'll times it by about 13. And then if you're an absolute machine who works out all the time, all day, every day, and is just moving around consistently, we'll times it by 14, okay? Because the more energy that you expel, the more energy that you require. Because remember that we're eating for fat loss here, which means you to eat more food. And then rather than making this really sort of rigid and just sort of hardcore for you guys, we want to keep two focuses here. So we're focusing on hitting a certain amount of calories, and we're focusing on hitting a certain amount of protein. To roughly work out how much protein your body requires, just do 0.8 times your body weight in pounds, and that will give you a rough idea, okay? And make sure you're hitting at least 25 grams of fiber, just to make sure that your digestive system is functioning properly. And when you're sort of being consistent within that, this will give you a lovely starting point in terms of how to actually get fat loss happening from the start, and be able to, I guess, pave for you the beginner steps towards actually getting fat loss actually happening in that area. So you can see there, ladies, it's very clear why what you've been doing has been lacking. Sure, you're focusing on eating clean, sure you're drinking lots of water, sure you're doing this and this, but hey, are you where you want to be yet? No. So this means that your body has adapted towards what you've been doing. It's been hard for you to remain consistent, and therefore this is why many other sort of women around the world as well struggle with these sort of things. We need to make sure that what you're doing is something that can be sustainable. So in terms of flexible nutrition, because we don't worry about meal timing, we don't worry about how big or small meals are, you don't have to cut out sugar or anything like that unless you're allergic to it. We just want to make sure that you're including all sorts of foods and being heavily flexible within it, and just to make sure that you're hitting those targets that we set before on a daily basis. But then if you're someone who is sort of, I guess, a bit weirded out by that and maybe wants a bit more information, well then by all means click below. We're going to have a nice chat together, and then I can share with you exactly how my actual personal coaching will help you just in regards to being able to really implement those things to make sure that you can I guess not have to spend hours and hours working out yourself. But either way, I'm sure you ladies can see there exactly why you've been stuffing up in those areas, and the clear solution towards how to actually move forward towards getting those hammering results again. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll see you tomorrow on video 3.